بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولي الأولين والآخرين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. So this is the second lesson of 4 in explaining principles pertaining to the names and the attributes of Allah, which we have taken from the book of Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, Al-Qawa'id Al-Muthla. And before we begin this lesson, just to revise the previous lesson and to check who was paying attention and who was writing, who was not. What is the meaning of Tawheed linguistically? Put your hands up. What is the meaning of a Tawheed linguistically? So only one person has got their hands up. 2, 3. Just to let you know, my principle in teaching is that I usually ask people's hands are not up. No. And if everybody's raising their hands, then I might ask somebody just to check why they've raised their hands. So what is the meaning of Tawheed linguistically? What's the meaning of Tawheed linguistically?
To single something out.
Good. To make something one or to single out. Ahsant. And which verb does this verbal noun Tawheed is it taken from? Which verb is it, Yusuf? Wahada yuwahidu ala wazni fa'ala yufa'ilu. Wahada with a fatha on the ha. And even linguistically, when we want to make something one, or we want to make something exclusive, or we want to unify something, then there are 2 things that we have to do, 2 pillars which we have to fulfill to say that that thing is now exclusive and one and unified. So what are those two pillars? Ahsant. So first you have to affirm that it is unique to that matter, and then you have to negate that it has any parts in the shape or any equal or partner or share other than that thing alone. Okay. La ilaha illallah, kalimatut tawheed, it has 2 pillars. What are they called in Arabic? And arkanu la ilaha illallah, in the Arabic language, what are they called? Arkanu la ilaha illallah in Arabic, what are they called? Mamun? Tafadhal. What are the pillars? What are the 2 pillars?
To affirm
In Arabic. See, when people lean against a wall, they become lazy. It's true. Tafadhal Hamza. An-nafyu wal-ithbat. So an-nafyu is to negate something. As the brother mentioned, al-ithbat is to affirm something. When we say an-nafi wal-ithbat with regards to la ilaha illallah, then what are we making nafi of and what are we making ithbat of? What are we making a nafi of? What are we negating with regards to la ilaha illallah, and what are we making ithbat of, meaning what are we affirming?
Indicating that there's no other deity to worship.
Ahsant. And that no other deity has a right to the worship of Allah. And then al-ithbat, we are affirming, we are affirming the right, the exclusive right of Allah to worship. What part of La ilaha illallah is an-nafi, yani which part of the wording, and what part of La ilaha illallah is al-ithbat? So La ilaha is an-nafi, and then? Good. Illallah, it is the ithbat. This is why, as a side benefit, when the ulama say that the meaning of La ilaha illallah is La ma'buda bihaqqin illallah. They say La ilaha illallah, it means La ma'buda bihaqqin illallah. La ma'buda bihaqq, meaning there is nothing which is worshipped upon this earth bihaqq, and it is deserving of worship. And what that means is La ma'buda bihaqq, that there are other ma'budat, there are other entities and deities which are worshipped. This is a fact, Because people worship idols, people worship the cow, people worship the sun and the moon, people worship shaitan, people worship prophets and messengers and saints and angels. So there are ma'budat and there are aliha, there are gods upon this earth. But al-ilahu al-haq wal-ma'bud al-mustahaq lil-ibadah, but the true deity and the only true God and the one who is worshipped and deserving and worthy of worship, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then illallah, except Allah. Now, what is question?
Just a quick question. So you're saying that there are other gods.
Yeah.
Is it just simply because people are worshipping other
Naam.
gods?
Naam.
Or-
Because the meaning of ilah, the meaning of ilah is al-ma'luh. And al-ma'luh means al-ma'bud. And al-ma'bud is that which is taken as being an entity of worship or an object of worship. So are there other objects of worship? Yes. But is their worship correct? No. And that's what Allah said, that it is Allah who is al-haq, the truth, وَأَنَّمَا يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ الْبَاطِلِ, and that which they call upon besides Him. So Allah affirmed that they do have other gods and deities which they call besides Him, but they are al-batil. Now, the Shar'i definition of at-Tawheed. The Shar'i definition of at-Tawheed in Arabic. Who knows the Shar'i definition of Tawheed in Arabic? تفضل أخي. Anybody else? The Sheikh Hamad. إفراد
إفراد الله بألوهيته وربوبيته وبأسمائه وصفاته.
Ahsan. So one definition we could say is Ifradullah, to single out Allah in His rububiyyah and His uluhiyyah and His asma wa sifat. Ahsan. Any other definition of at-Tawheed shar'an in Arabic? No? We can say Ifradullah bil ibadah. Ifradullahi bil ibadah. And this is the most simplest definition of Tawheed. Ifradullahi bil ibadah. To single out Allah in every type of ibadah. And that which is more exact is Ifradullahi bima yakhtassu bihi. Is to single out Allah in everything which is exclusive to Him. Everything which is exclusive to Him. So either Ifradullahi bi rububiyyatihi wa uluhiyyatihi wa asma'ihi wa sifatih, as Sheikh Hamad mentioned, or Ifradullahi bil ibadah, or Ifradullahi bi kulli ma yakhtassu bihi or bima yakhtassu bihi, all of it is the same. And we mentioned that, okay, what are the three broad rights of Allah, or the three categories of Tawheed and what Tawheed? Who can mention them in Arabic? Yeah. Good. Ahsan. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, what does it refer to? Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, and I don't want a translation. Don't say to me the Tawheed of the Lordship of Allah, because in English, to me, it does not mean much. The Lordship of Allah, I don't understand what that means. But explain to me Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. And يعني, what exactly are we singling out to Allah when we say Tawheed al-Rububiyyah? Who's not answered so far? Anybody who's
Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is to single Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out only in the characteristic of Rububiyyah. This creation,
Ahsant.
Rizq.
Ahsant. So Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is to single out to Allah in every action which is exclusive to Him. So for example, al-khalq al-tam, absolute creation, is the exclusive action of Allah. We have to single Him out in it. And al-mulk al-tam and al-rizq al-tam and tadbir al-tam, all of these are exclusive actions of Allah. So we have to single Him out in these acts of al-rububiyyah. And this is why some of the ulama, when they define Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, they say Tawheedullahi fi af'alihi. to single out Allah in His actions. His actions of creating, His action of providing, His action of sustaining, His action of controlling, His action of authority and dominion, this is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. And then Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, explain to me Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Somebody who's not answered so far. Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah.
To single him out in his worship, all worship is done in just for him.
Ahsant. To single out Allah in His exclusive right to your worship. And this means that your salah has to be for Him alone, and your hajj is for Him alone, and your slaughtering is for Him alone, and your dua is for Him alone, and your absolute love, and your absolute hope, and your absolute fear, and your absolute need, and your absolute reliance and connection is to Him alone. And notice the word I'm using, mutlaq or absolute, because we have mahabbah of each other, and we have fear of different things, and we have partial reliance upon each other. But in the absolute sense, then it is to Allah subhanahu alone. The word uluhiyya or tawheed al-uluhiyya, there are other words which can be used interchangeably, which have the similar meaning or the same meaning. What are they? Instead of saying uluhiyya or tawheed al-uluhiyya, what else can we say? Tawheed al-ibadah or no, don't shout out. Who's not answered? Who's not answered? Tafadhal. No, don't look back. No. Huh? Tawheed al-ilahiyya. Ahsan. So Tawheed al-uluhiyya, Tawheed al-ilahiyya, Tawheed al-ibadah. The other one? Tafadhal Yusuf. Tawheed al-ubudiyya. And all of it means the same thing. Why is the study of Tawheed al-asma wa sifat, why is it so important? Why is the study of Tawheed al-asma wa sifat so important? Tafadhal.
Because really to worship Allah,
Ahsant.
you have to understand.
No. So your ibadah of Allah, especially if you want to perfect your ibadah of Allah, is based upon how much you know of Allah subhanahu. So the more you know of Him and the more aware you are of Him, of course the greater your worship is going to be. So for example, if you stand in salah and you're standing in salah and you know and you appreciate and you're aware and you have this focus in your mind that I am standing in front of Al-Aziz, Al-Rabb, Al-Khaliq, Al-Qawi, Al-Mateen, Al-Mannan, Al-Jabbar, Al-Qahir, then of course your worship and your standing in front of Him is going to be much greater than a person who is not thinking and focused on these meanings. When you ask for forgiveness, and then you know that the one in front of whom I am raising my hands, He's Al-Ghafoor, and He's Al-Ghafir, and He's Al-Ghaffar, and He's Al-Tawwab, and He's Ar-Rahim, and He's Ar-Ra'uf, then of course your istighfar in front of Him and the hope which you have in His mercy and His istighfar is going to be much greater than a person who is not calling out to Allah and he's focused on these matters. And when you're in a desperate situation and you're thinking, why am I in such a desperate situation? Why has Allah decreed this upon me? And then you remember that He's Al-Alim, and He's Al-Hakim, the all-wise, and He's Al-Khabir, the all-aware and the all-informed, then your understanding of the situation which you are in and the hikmah of this situation and leaving it in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being pleased and patient with the decree of Allah, it will be different to a person who has no concept and understanding of that Allah, He's Al-Hakim, the all-wise, Al-Alim, Al-Khabir, He's the one who created and He knows why He created us. It will differ. Now, another reason. So firstly, because your worship is based upon your knowing of Allah subhanahu. Because you can only know your own self and only realize what your interests are and what benefits you and what harms you and why you've been placed upon this earth and what your objectives upon this earth and what your purpose is upon this earth, if you know regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Third, who else?
The core message of the Quran.
Naam. The core message of the Qur'an, rather the core message of every divine book and every holy scripture, is regarding Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. And we mentioned three greatest surah and ayat of the Quran. What are they? Ayat al-Kursi, because it is regarding Allah. Fatiha, because it is regarding Tawheed. And al-Ikhlas, because it is regarding Allah subhanahu. Why was Surah al-Ikhlas called Surah al-Ikhlas? Why did the ulama call it Surah al-Fadl?
It's everything, all of the ayahs about Allah.
أحسنت. لأن الله أخلصها لنفسه. Because Allah made it purely about Him. يعني Surah al-Ikhlas is exclusively regard, every single ayah speaks only about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another reason why Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat is so important.
Messengers and prophets were sent to teach.
Every single prophet and messenger only came to teach people regarding Allah and then to show the people the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to teach the people who He is and then show the people how to attain His pleasure. And teaching people who is Allah and what are His rights, this is at-Tawheed wal-Aqeedah. And teaching the people the path to His pleasure, this is what we call as, or this is what we call al-fiqh. Okay, we'll begin with the 7 principles pertaining to His beautiful names, and we'll try to cover as much as we can do so. تفضل. القاعدة أسماء الله تعالى كلها حسنى. So the first principle is that we have to understand that every single name of Allah, it is husna. And the meaning of al-husna, ay balighatun fil husni, that every single name of Allah, it is the epitome and the pinnacle of beauty, perfection and good. So we don't just say that the names of Allah are beautiful, rather there is nothing more beautiful than them. We don't say the names of Allah are merely complete, rather it is the pinnacle of being complete and perfect and beautiful. And what is the evidence that Asma'ullahi kulluha husna? The saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-A'raf, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. And for Allah are the names which are al-husna, ay balighatun fil husn, that the absolute pinnacle and epitome of beauty and perfection and completion. And this ayah, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى, and for Allah are al-asma'ul husna. In normal Arabic, we would say al-asma'ul husna lillah, that the beautiful names are for Allah. But in this ayah, it says walillahi al-asma'ul husna, for Allah are the beautiful names, as opposed to being the beautiful names are for Allah. And the reason why that which should come later has been brought forward, yufidul hasr, it shows that these beautiful names are for Allah and for Allah alone, and not for anybody else. And why do we say that the names and the names of Allah are complete and perfect and beautiful? Because these names are the names of whom? Of Allah subhanahu. And because Allah subhanahu, He is Al-A'zam, Al-Akbar, Al-A'la, Al-Ajal, Al-Akbar, then that which describes Him and His names are also the greatest and the best and the most exalted and the most majestic. So let's take an example of this. The name of Allah, Al-Hayy. The name of Allah, Al-Hayy. It does not merely mean the living. Al-Hayy, it does not merely mean Dhul Haya, the one who has life. Because everything which is living has a life. Rather, the meaning of Al-Hayy, ay Dhul Haya Al-Kamila, the one who has complete and perfect life, which was not preceded by absence, and neither does it end with an ending or ceasing. So the meaning of Al-Hayy is Dhul Hayatul Kamila, complete and perfect life, such there was nothing which came before him, and neither was it his life was preceded by absence, and there is nothing after him, and neither will his life end. And then also Dhul Hayatul Kamila, the one who possesses complete and perfect life, which contains within it every other attribute of perfection. So not only does he have Dhul Hayatul Kamila, but then his hayat, his life, it is Dhatul Ilm Al Kamil, a life which then has complete and perfect knowledge. Wal Qudra Al Kamila, and complete and perfect ability. Was Sam'ul Kamil, and complete and perfect hearing. Wal Basarul Kamil, and complete and perfect sight to the end of it. In opposition to human beings. So humans, yes, we are also alive. We have a life. But firstly, is our life complete and perfect? No. We came from absence, and then we will go to absence, and then Allah will resurrect us once more. Secondly, even those who are living, then are all of their faculties complete and perfect? No. So this one is alive, but he's deficient in his hearing. And this one is alive, but he cannot see well. And this one is alive and he has a poor memory. And the other one is alive, but he has problems in his heart. The other one is alive and he cannot walk properly. He has this disability, that disability. So we affirm for Allah subhanahu hayat, and we affirm for creation al-hayat, but shattana bayna hayatain. But complete difference between the life of Allah subhanahu and the life of the rest of creation. We say that Allah subhanahu, He's al-alim. And what is the meaning of al-alim? Not merely that Allah knows, because there are many people who know, but dhul ilm al-kamil, the one who has complete knowledge of everything. So much so, lam yusbiq ilmuhu bil jahli wa lam yalhaqhu nisyan, that his knowledge was not preceded by ignorance, and neither does it end with forgetfulness. And this is the difference between the knowledge of Allah and the knowledge of creation. So yes, Allah subhanahu, He has knowledge and He knows, and we also know, we also have knowledge. But we know something that which we did not know. I mean, first we were ignorant about something, and then we learnt about it. As for the knowledge of Allah, it was never preceded by ignorance. And also, we know certain matters, but if we don't revise those matters, we forget. As for the knowledge of Allah subhanahu, it never ends with forgetfulness. And if a person says, how can we say that Allah is the eternal living and there was no beginning to Him? And that He is al-alim, and this ilm was never preceded by ignorance. How? Because He is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the true deity can only be a true deity if He has knowledge without ignorance and forgetfulness. And a hayat without absence and without an ending. And if a person wants to just try to imagine, and we cannot do so, how complete the ilm of Allah subhanahu is, then read the saying of Allah, وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا, that there is no leaf which falls except Allah subhanahu has complete knowledge of that leaf. So imagine just one tree. How many branches are upon that single tree? And then how many leaves are there on that one tree? And in hundreds, if not thousands of leaves just on a single tree. Any one of those leaves from any one of those branches on that just one tree, if it falls, Allah subhanahu has complete knowledge of it. And He knew before it was even created which tree, what type, which area, what branch, which leaf, at which time, and how, and due to what it will fall. And that's just one tree and its leaves. Now imagine just in your front garden or your back garden, or in one of these houses here or one of these parks, how many trees there are in just a house or a garden or a park. Parks, certain parks, hundreds of trees, if not thousands of trees. And each tree, hundreds or thousands of leaves. A single leaf in that one park or that one garden, from the thousands of trees which exist, every single one of them Allah's complete knowledge of when and how and why and how so. And then imagine just in an area, let's say within Manchester, how many parks and how many trees there are. Then imagine the whole of the city. And then imagine the whole country. Then imagine the whole dunya. And how many trees and forests and jungles there are. And how many branches and leaves on each tree in the whole wide world. And then imagine from the beginning of the time to the end of the time. All those trees which have been eroded or they have fallen down, how many leaves they must have fallen. And until Yawm al-Qiyamah, how many more will fall. And every single one of them, and every single one of those leaves, He said, Subhana, وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا. Not a single leaf falls, except He, Subhana, knows regarding it. This, and we can never know and comprehend the complete knowledge of Allah, but this brings us closer to appreciate some of the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then every individual name of Allah, it is husna. It is complete and beautiful and perfect. Every single name of Allah individually. And then the perfection and the completion of the names of Allah, it is increased if you consider the context of why this particular ayah mentioning this name was mentioned in this place. So the context of the name of Allah and that ayah, it increases the perfection and the completion of and the beauty of the name of Allah, the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for example, you know in the Qur'an, in some ayat, Allah subhanahu mentions the word Al-Aziz. Why did He mention Al-Aziz in that ayah, in that context? Why did He not mention any one of His other many beautiful names? And in some ayat He mentions Al-Ghafur. Why Al-Ghafur? Why not any one of His other names? If a person contemplates why, then this increases him in understanding and acknowledging the greatness and the beauty and the perfection of the names and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is from at-tadabbur fi ayatillahi wa sifati. At-tadabbur, pondering over the names and the attributes of Allah. Yani one of the ways in which a person ponders and contemplates over the names of Allah is learning and being aware of why Allah subhanahu used this name over here and not this name in the other place. And it's mentioned that an A'rabi, yani a unlettered, unlearned Bedouin Arab, he heard a learned person reciting the ayah in which Allah subhanahu says, وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَسَبَا. The male thief and the female thief cut off their hands on account of that which they have attained, meaning stolen. نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ, and a deterrent from Allah. وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ, and Allah, He is Al-Aziz, the greatest and the most majestic, possessing Al-Izza Al-Kamila, the perfect majesty and greatness, and He's Al-Hakim, and He is wise. And the learned one, he recited this ayah, instead of saying Wallahu Azizun Hakim, that Allah is Azizun Hakim, he said Wallahu Ghafur Rahim, that Allah is the most forgiving and the most merciful. The Bedouin Arab, he said Laysa hadha min kalamillah, that this is not the speech of Allah. What you've just said now, and the ayah وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَسَبَا نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ, and then he said وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ, this is not the Qur'an. So that Alim Qari, he said to him, تُكَذِّبَ الْقُرْآنِ, that you're rejecting the meanings of the Qur'an. He said لَا أُكَذِّبَ الْقُرْآنِ, I'm not rejecting the meanings of the Qur'an, but this which you have recited is not the Qur'an. So then the Qari went back and he checked, and he found that yes, Allah said Wallahu Azizun Hakim, he did not say Ghafur Rahim. The Bedouin Arab understood, because he knew that the meaning of Azizun Hakim is appropriate for this ayah. As for Ghafur Rahim, it's the wrong context, because here Allah subhanahu is mentioning a punishment, and this punishment is based upon His Izzah and His Hikmah, His wisdom, and therefore how does Ghafur Rahim fit into this ayah? So if you contemplate this, then no doubt, you being aware of the greatness of the names of Allah subhanahu, it increases. And this also applies on an everyday basis when it comes to the adhkar and the ad'iyah. And this is from those matters which increases a person in his khushu'. So why is it that it is the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam that when you are traveling and you ascend, what do you say? Allahu Akbar. And when you are descending, what do you say? Subhanallah. Why? Why not Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah over there and Allahu Akbar over here? And all of it is the dhikr of Allah, all of it is beautiful to Allah. Because when you are ascending and you may have a feeling of, I am at the top, then you have to remember Allahu Akbar, but Allah is greater. And when you are descending, and often in places which are closer to the ground, there are more impurities, more dirt, and you might be mixing or touching some of the dirt, you say Subhanallah, meaning glorified is Allah, how perfect He is. Because Subhanallah, it is Tanzihullah an kulli naqsin wa aib. It is to glorify Allah above every weakness or impurity or anything similar to this. When you enter into the masjid, what do you say? Allahumma inni as'aluka, or Allahumma aftah li abwaba rahmatik. When you're leaving the masjid, what do you say? Allahumma inni as'aluka min fadlik. Why? Why is the difference? When you enter into the masjid, you ask Allah to open the doors of His mercy for you. Because why did you enter into the masjid? To seek and attain the rahmah of Allah subhanahu. When you left the masjid, where are you going? You're going back to your workplace, back to where you're going to make an earning. So what do you ask Allah? Allah asks from your fadl, give me from your kindness, because I'm seeking your rizq, and I cannot attain the rizq without your kindness and your favor. So all of this, and also when it comes to the salah, why is it that you say Subhana Rabbil A'la and your head is at the lowest place on the ground? And Subhana Rabbil Azim, and you are bowing down. Because people, they bow down in front of others due to the honor of those people. Yani people bow in front of the teachers, people bow in front of the king. Why? Because they think that person is Azim, he is great. And then you remember Subhana Rabbil Azim. Now my Lord is Al-Azim, and therefore I only bow in front of Him. And then when you go down to the lowest place, you say Subhana Rabbil A'la, that my forehead is at the lowest place right now, And my Lord subhanahu, He is al-a'la, and yet He hears the dua which I am making. All of this, tadabbur. And this is when people ask, how can we increase in our khushu, in salah, and our adhkar, and our dua, and increases in tazkiyatun nafs. All of this comes down to tadabbur. Ayatullahi wa asma'ihi wa sifatihi, and so on and so forth. And then thirdly, so we said all of the names of Allah subhanahu are beautiful. Every single name of Allah subhanahu is beautiful. It is beautiful and complete and perfect individually. So we said Al-Hayy, it is complete individual in its specific meaning. And Al-Alim, and Ar-Rahim, and Ar-Rahman, Al-Qadir, and so on and so forth. And then we said the beauty and the perfection and goodness and the greatness of each name is increased if we contemplate the context in the Qur'an in which it was mentioned. And then the greatness and the beauty of the name of Allah is increased even further when we consider why Allah subhanahu in some ayahs He pairs certain names to other names. And these are called al-asma al-maqruna or al-asma al-muqtarana. The names of Allah which come together in pairs. And there are 59 different names, or there are 59 different combinations in which Allah subhanahu mentions two names with each other. And if you think, and if you contemplate, that why is it these two names have been paired with each other? And why is it Ghafurun Rahim always paired with each other? Why is it Alimun Hakim always paired with each other? Why is it As-Sami' Al-Basir are paired with each other? Why is it that Al-Aziz Ar-Rahim is paired with each other? Why is it Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum is paired with each other? And Ghaniyun Kareem and Hakimun Alim. There's a reason that Allah subhanahu pairs both of these names together. And then this pairing, it increases the perfection and the greatness of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for example, Allah subhanahu said it in the Qur'an, فَإِنَّ رَبِّي غَنِيٌّ كَرِيمٌ. That very my Lord, He is ghani, meaning there is nothing which is more complete and rich and in terms of that which He can give and possesses than Allah. And He is Kareem, and He is generous. Why Ghani and Kareem together? Because in this dunya, how many rich people do we know, and yet they are the stingiest of people? How many rich people do we know, and yet they don't want to even give their zakah? So they have al-ghana with them, they have wealth with them, but they don't have karam, they don't have generosity. And then how many other people have a generous heart, but they don't have with them that which they can be generous with? But my Lord, He said, فَإِنَّ رَبِّي غَنِيٌّ كَرِيمٌ. But my Lord, He is both Ghani and He is Kareem. And Allah subhanahu said, He is Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. Al-Hayy, the one who possesses complete and perfect life, as we mentioned. Al-Qayyum, the one who is independent of others and everything else is dependent upon Him. Al-Qa'imu bi nafsihi, the one who is independent of others, he does not need sustenance from others, and He sustains everybody else. Because human beings, they have al-hayat, but then they are dependent upon others. When they are young and babies, they depend upon their parents. When they are older, they depend upon their children. As for Allah subhanahu, He is al-Hayy al-Qayyum. And some people, they are al-Hayy, and they are independent upon others, but they are not able to sustain anybody else. And they cannot fulfill the dependencies of others upon them. But Allah subhanahu, al-Hayy al-Qayyum. So understanding Ghaniyun Kareem increases in the perfection of the names and attributes of Allah. And al-Hayy al-Qayyum increases in the perfection of Allah subhanahu. He is Al-Aziz Ar-Rahim. Al-Aziz Ar-Rahim. Al-Aziz, meaning He is great and majestic in His strength and His power and His authority and His ability. And then this is paired with Ar-Rahim, but He's the most merciful. Why these two? Because the Izzah of Allah subhanahu, His complete and great power and ability and might and strength and authority, it never leads to na'udhu billah al-dhulm or tyranny. Rather, it is only rahmah after rahmah. And then if you look at human beings, how many of them have a level of quwwah and mulk and izzah, and because of this they oppress and they cheat and they belittle and they are tyrannical because of their izzah. So they have izzah but they don't have rahmah. And how many other people are merciful and gentle, but because they are weak, they don't possess the strength or the authority to show any type of oppression or tyranny. But Allah subhanahu, He is perfect in His izzah, and there is nothing more great and more powerful to Him than Him. Yet at the same time, He's the greatest in His rahmah, and there is nothing more merciful than Him. And this is why they say that Allah subhanahu, He is afuwun, He pardons. But if you understand that His al-afu, His pardoning, is based upon Him being al-aziz and shadidul iqab, that His punishment, if He decides it, it is painful, and His authority and His greatness, and He is al-jabbar al-qahhar, and yet despite all of this He pardons, and He loves to pardon. So when you understand both of these in context with each other, it increases the grace of the names of Allah. But another person loves pardoning, always forgiving people. But miskeen aslan has no ability to do anything anyway. He has no strength, no power, no right. He's weak, he's on his own. He's got no family members to help him with. So the only thing he can do is pardon. Therefore, him pardoning, it's of no value. Because even if he wanted to do otherwise, he could not do so. But Allah subhanahu, no. So the names being paired and connecting to each other, and those pairings specifically, they also increase the husna and the kamal of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, تفضل.
القاعدة الثانية أسماء الله تعالى أعلام وأوصاف.
نعم, the author said that the names of Allah, the asma'ullah, the names of Allah, they are a'lam and awsaf. So a'lam, meaning they are names, they are words which refer to Him subhanahu. But they are not mere empty names, they are awsaf. These names, they contain attributes, descriptions and meanings. So with regards to them being names, does each name refer to a different being? No. Each name refers to the same being. So in terms of who they refer to, they are mutaradif. They are synonymous. And the meaning may differ, but they are synonymous from the angle of that they all refer to the same being subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, we say all praise is for Allah. He is Rabb. All praise is for Allah. All praise is for Rabb. All praise is for Ar-Rahman. All praise is for Ar-Rahim. All praise is for Al-Malik. Are we referring, na'udhu billah, to 5 different deities? No. All of them go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the names of Allah, they are mutaradif and mutabayin. They are synonymous from one angle in the fact that they refer to the same being and the same that, the same sacred essence. At the same time, each one has a specific meaning. And that is the awsaf, the meanings of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, Al-Hayy, Al-Alim, Al-Qadir, Al-Sami', Al-Basir, Al-Rahman, Al-Rahim, Al-Aziz, Al-Hakim. All of them are synonymous because they refer to the same being. Yeah, at the same time, each one of them has an independent, exclusive meaning. So the meaning of Al-Hayy is different to the meaning of Al-Alim. The meaning of Al-Qadir is different to the meaning of Al-Sami'. And why is this principle important? Because some of the deviated sects, like the Mu'tazila and others who came before, they said, نثبت أسماء الله وننفي صفاته. That we affirm the names of Allah, but we negate the meanings or the descriptions which each name it contains. And there's a reason why they did this. So they say, we believe the name of Allah, it is Al-Alim, as a name, because Allah called himself Al-Alim in the Qur'an. But do we affirm Sifatul Ilm? Do we affirm the attribute of knowledge within the name Al-Alim? We cannot affirm. And their reasoning was that if we say that the name of Allah contains a description, and this is Al-Ilm, but then also people have Al-Ilm. And so we are equating Allah to the people. Because He has ilm and people have ilm. And how can Allah be equated to the people in that they both share a similar or a common characteristic? This is why they negated the attributes behind the names. Ahlul Sunnah, we say no. Each name of Allah, it has a meaning and it has a description or an attribute or a reality to that name. And then we go one step further, that those descriptions and those attributes, they conform to the name that Allah has given Himself. Meaning, when we say the name of Allah is Al-Alim, that is because He has and possesses the attribute of complete knowledge. Okay, human beings, names differ from realities. So I can call this, on here it could be written water, it could be written mineral water, it could be written tap water, it could be written juice, it could even be written alcohol, akramakullah. Does the name which we refer to change the reality of it? No. Just because we call this mineral water, tap water, juice, or alcohol, the reality is different, the name is different. Also amongst the people, how many people are called salih, righteous, and yet they are the most disobedient of people? How many people are called kareem, and yet he is completely bakhil? How many people are called rahim, and yet he is shadid? How many people are called sadiq, and yet he is the most lying of people? There are people who are called Abdullah, worshippers of Allah, and they have never worshipped Allah in their life. How many people say we are Muslim, and yet that name does not conform to the reality of that person being a Muslim? So this is where the names of Allah subhanahu, they differ from the names of creation. So the first principle, the names of Allah subhanahu are complete and perfect, because the names of human beings and the description of human beings, they are not complete and perfect. Secondly, the names of Allah contain a meaning and a description, and the description matches the reality, because the names of humans, they may have those names which has a meaning, but that meaning does not meet or agree with the reality. Or the names of Allah, the names of the people are asma'un jamida. They are empty names with no meaning behind them. So for example, the name George or the name Tony, what meaning is contained within that name? No meaning. It's just an empty name which has no meaning behind it. It might be an abbreviation of another name, but there's no meaning behind it. But Al-Kareem, Al-Mannan, Al-Ghafoor, Al-Jabbar, Al-Rahim, Al-Qahir, Al-A'la, all of these have meanings and awsaf behind these names. The Mu'tazila, who negated the meanings and the attributes behind the names of Allah, they were forced to say, Inna Allaha alimun bila ilm. Now we say Allah is Al-Alim, meaning He has a name called Al-Alim, but without Al-Ilm. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ بِلَا السَّمْعِ. And He is the name As-Sami', but without the attribute of hearing. وَهُوَ الْبَصِيرُ بِلَا بَصَرٍ وَهُوَ الْحَيُّ بِلَا حَيَاةٍ وَهُوَ الْقَدِيرُ بِلَا قُدْرَةٍ, and so on and so forth. Now if a person believes in something which has no hearing, no sight, no life, no knowledge, no qudra, no attribute, then what does he believe in? Absence. Because only nothing, and the concept of nothing, absence, this is what is described as being nothing. No attribute, no reality, nothing to it, no kayfiyah to it. This is so this is who they are worshipping. And this is why this level of ta'atil, it is kufr. And this is why the ulama, they made takfir of the extreme Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyyah. نعم تفضل. So this is the continuation of the second principle, which is a'lam, that they are terms and words or names which refer to the same essence, to the same that. Each one of them is synonymous because it refers to one, Allah subhanahu. But at the same time, each one has a different meaning in terms of the meaning and the description. This also shows us the ignorance of the Christians, for example. And subhanAllah, I remember a long time ago watching, in the debates of the old days, there was a Christian and he came up and he came to ask Sheikh Ahmad Deed, rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah, a question. And he said, I can prove from the Qur'an the concept of Trinity. I can prove it. He said, don't you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? There's three gods. One is called Allah, one is called ar-Rahman, one is called ar-Rahim. Because they did not understand that no, the names of Allah, they may be different names with exclusive meanings, but they are synonymous. Because all of them refer to the same being and not different ذوات, different essence of being. تفضل.
وهي بالاعتبار أولي مترادفة بدلالتها على مسمى واحد.
نعم. مترادفة يعني synonymous, because all refers to the same being.
وهو الله عز وجل. وبالاعتبار الثاني متباين.
متباينة meaning each one, it has a specific exclusive meaning whilst referring to the same that subhanahu wa ta'ala. تفضل.
متباينة بدلالة كل واحد منهما على معناه خاص.
الخاص. نعم. Each one has a specific meaning. نعم تفضل.
القاعدة الثالثة أسماء الله تعالى إن دلت على وصف متعد تضمنت
ثلاثة
أمور.
أحدها بدل عن الثلاثة.
أحدها ثبوت ذلك.
نعم. هي ثبوت أو ثبوتا. Either way. Either it's بدل or it's a new sentence, either way.
ثبوت ذلك اسم الله عز وجل. الثاني ثبوت الصفة التي
تضمنها لله.
عز وجل. الثالث ثبوت حكمها
حكمها
ومقتضاها. وإن دلت على وصف غير متعد تضمنت أمرين. أحدهما ثبوت ذلك اسم الله عز وجل. الثاني ثبوت صفة التي
تضمنها لله.
لله عز وجل.
So the third principle is, it's an extension of the second principle, and that is Asma'ullahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are two types, or rather we can say, we said the names of Allah, each name contains a sifa, each name contains a meaning and an attribute. Now the attributes which are contained in these names are two types. They are either muta'addin or lazim. Either the effect of that attribute extends to creation, or the attribute, it is describing only Allah subhanahu and not based upon an action of His. Meaning, the name of Allah subhanahu, Al-Hayy, the one who has complete and eternal life. Is that based upon an action which Allah grants towards creation? No. Al-Hayy, it describes the essence of Allah, that He has complete eternal life. Also, Al-Quddus, that He is sacred and holy. So, this sifa, it is lazim. And this sifa, it describes the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is Al-Aziz. He is the greatest and the most majestic, the most exalted. He is Al-Ali. He is the most high. All of these names and other names similar to this, these are lazima li dhatillahi azza wa jal. These describe the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this case, we have to affirm the name of Allah, meaning Al-Hayy, Al-Quddus, Al-Aziz, and then we have to affirm the attribute, Al-Hayat and Al-Izzah, and so on and so forth, which is contained within this name. Then the second type of the name of Allah, it contains an attribute which is muta'addiyah, meaning there is an effect upon creation. It extends to creation. And I'll give you an example. And in these types of attributes, you have to affirm the name of Allah and the attribute of Allah, and then you have to affirm the effect or the impact of that name and the attribute of Allah upon creation. So for example, the name of Allah subhanahu as-Sami'. The name of Allah subhanahu as-Sami'. His name is as-Sami', we have to affirm the name. It contains within it the description or the attribute of as-Sam' al-Kamil, complete and perfect hearing. We have to affirm it. And then the action of Allah, that He hears. He hears what we say. So then we have to affirm that action of Allah and the effect it has upon us, that our statements are heard by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the word as-Sam', or the action of hearing, that action is not restricted to a person. Rather, linguistically, hearing can only be called hearing when it is muta'addi, when something is to be heard. So the word in the Arabic language, as-Sam', is only as-Sam' when it has an effect, or it necessitates that something is heard, and then we describe that person as being hearing. So we say that the attribute of Allah subhanahu, because it is muta'addin, it has a hukam, or it has a muqtada, something is necessitated from the fact that Allah subhanahu is the all-hearing. Then we have to affirm the name and the sifa and the hukm or the athar or the muqtada, i.e. that effect or that which it necessitates. And like this, al-ilm, and like this, al-basar, His knowledge and His hearing. And for example, al-Ghafur. Al-Ghafur is a good example. So al-Ghafur, we affirm the name of Allah al-Ghafur. The name itself, that wording, alif, lam, ghain, fa, waw, ra, that word, as a word, we affirm that this is the name of Allah, because He called Himself al-Ghafur. Secondly, we affirm the meaning and the attribute which is in this name, and that is Dhul Maghfirah, that the attribute of forgiveness. And then this attribute forgiveness, it contains within it the effect that Allah forgives. And linguistically, maghfirah cannot be called maghfirah unless something is forgiven and pardoned. So then we have to affirm the effect of that attribute, then that Allah does forgive those sins. And then there's a fourth thing which we can add here. There's a fourth thing, that every name of Allah, it has to have atharun fi suluk al-abd. Every name of Allah, regardless of whether it is lazimun or muta'addin, it has to influence the behavior and the outlook of a Muslim. So, when you read that He is Al-Qawi, Subhana, and you understand Al-Quwwa, then this has to affect your behavior as a Muslim. When you believe that He is Al-Ghafur, At-Tawwab, and you understand the sifa and the meaning of Al-Maghfirah and At-Tawbah, then this has to affect your behavior and your actions and your outlook. نعم تفضل.
القاعدة الرابعة دلالة أسماء الله تعالى على ذاته وصفاته تكون بالمطابقة بالتضمن بالالتزام.
نعم. And how is it translated?
Fourth principle. The names of Allah, the Most High, contain information regarding His essence and His attributes through one
مطابقة.
al-mutabaqa, inclusive meanings which reflect His essency as a whole, al-bitadammun, restrictive meanings specific to the attribute, and bil-iltizam, consequential meanings.
نعم. This principle is based upon linguistic and dalalat al-lughawiyya, words in Arabic and terms in Arabic. And this is often studied in usul al-fiqh. In usul al-fiqh, this is called dalalatul alfaz. That in the Arabic language, what meanings are contained within a single word. So they say this is mabhath usuli mantaqi, dalalatul alfaz. And any book of usul fiqh, you'll find bab dalalatul alfaz. And that is that any name of Allah subhana, it contains three meanings. We said al-mutabaqa wa tadammun wal iltizam. So al-mutabaqa, we say inclusive meanings. No. Al-mutabaqa, inclusive meanings. At-tadammun, a restricted meaning. And al-iltizam, a consequential meaning. For example, first I'll give you an example in terms of everyday words. The word al-bayt. And what does al-bayt mean in English? House. Now, the word al-bayt. First of all, the word al-bayt, when you hear this word al-bayt, it has an inclusive meaning. Meaning that structure and everything which that structure includes. So when somebody says to you al-bayt, what meaning does that word put in your mind? Bil mutabaqa, in terms of the inclusive meaning, you're talking about that structure which is built, which is firm and sturdy, and it typically contains a roof and windows and doors and walls and bricks. So now this is the meaning of the word al-bayt, inclusive of everything which is contained within that word. So when we say al-bayt, a house, we don't imagine something which is like a fairy tale. No, we imagine every meaning of that word. Every meaning of that word. Also, the word al-bayt, it also proves every aspect of the house. Every aspect of the house. So when I say al-bayt, if I affirm al-bayt, I am also affirming the windows, exclusive to the doors. I am also affirming a door, exclusive to anything else. I am also affirming a brick, exclusive to everything else. So this is a tadammun. And then finally al-iltizam. And al-iltizam are consequential meanings. Meaning, when we say al-bayt, a house, we are also affirming a builder. Because as a consequence of the concept of a house, there must have been a builder. And an architect or council planning for those people who stick to the rules of buildings. And we're affirming a mine somewhere upon the earth where stone and raw materials were extracted from. And we are also affirming a forest somewhere from where the wood was taken to build the structure. And we are also affirming stores of gas and natural gas in the earth because of the gas and electric and so on and so forth. This is dalalatul iltizam. These are consequential meanings. It's not the house itself, but the consequence of us affirming a house is that we must affirm a builder and a designer and a council and a street and a road and a coal mine or a cement mine or stores of gas resources and so on and so forth. This is al-mutabaqa at-tadammun al-iltizam. The same when it comes to the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for example, the name of Allah Ar-Razzaq. The name of Allah Ar-Razzaq. Bil-mutabaqa, yani the inclusive meaning of the name of Allah Ar-Razzaq is that this word, it affirms the that of Allah subhanahu. And that Allah subhanahu, He is Ar-Rabbul Bari, He is the Lord which possesses every attribute which He possesses. So Ar-Razzaq is not just an individual word or meaning, but it has an inclusive meaning. And that is Ar-Razzaq. It includes all the other attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, Ar-Razzaq, it has an exclusive meaning, the meaning of Ar-Rizq. And then thirdly, His attribute of Ar-Rizq, it has through it, other attributes are affirmed as a natural necessity or consequence of Him having Ar-Rizq. For example, Al-Mulk. Because a being who does not have Al-Mulk, who does not own anything, how can he be Ar-Razzaq? So through affirming Ar-Razzaq exclusively, we have to affirm Al-Mulk exclusively. And also Ar-Rahmah, mercy. Because the existence of Ar-Razzaq and us affirming He is Ar-Razzaq, we have to also affirm He is Ar-Rahim. Because it is only one who is Ar-Rahim who also sustains and provides. And Al-Ata, La mu'tiya lima mana'at. We say Allah is Al-Mu'ti, the one who gives. Because Ar-Rizq, as a consequence, He must be Al-Mu'ti. He's the one who then gives that rizq and does not withhold that rizq, or withholds and gives as He wishes. Ala kulli hal, as I mentioned, this issue, it is from Al-Mabahith Al-Usuliyya Al-Lughawiyya Al-Mantiqiyya min Dalalatul Alfaz and Usul Fiqh. تفضل. Then the fifth principle, fifth out of the seventh, is Asma'ullahi Tawqifiyya. That the names of Allah the Most High, they are Tawqifiyya. They are dependent upon wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La majala lil aqli fiha. And there is no room for the aql to affirm or negate a name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, we can only affirm names of Allah if they have been affirmed in the Qur'an or the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the authentic hadith. And we can only negate a name of Allah if they have been negated in the Qur'an or the authentic hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, some names will be negated as a meaning of a name which is affirmed. So for example, you might say, where is it in the Qur'an that Allah negates from Himself this name? Like for example, cruel. And that name cruel, where is it negated specifically? We say that the name of Allah Al-Kareem or Ar-Rahman or Al-Adl, the just, it negates any other name which opposes the meaning of this name. So we can only affirm a name if Allah subhanahu affirmed it in the Qur'an or it was affirmed by the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and we can only negate a name from Allah if it was negated in the Qur'an or negated in the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or it has been negated by one of the other names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ahmad, he said, لا يوصف الله إلا بما وصف به نفسه أو وصفه به رسوله لا يتجاوز القرآن والحديث. He said, rahimahullah, that Allah cannot be described with anything except that which He has described Himself with, or that which His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam has described Him with. لا يتجاوز القرآن والحديث. A person cannot surpass that which is mentioned in the Quran and in the Hadith, because Allah subhanahu said, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ, and do not seek that which you have no knowledge over. And Allah subhanahu said, وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, and that you say regarding Allah that which you have no knowledge. And so we only affirm names and attributes of Allah when they are affirmed in the Quran and the Hadith, and we only negate names and attributes of Allah when they are also negated in the Quran and the Hadith. نعم. The author said, rahimahullah, that the names of Allah subhanahu are not limited to any number. The names of Allah subhanahu are not limited to any number. Why? Because in the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he say, Allahumma inni as'aluka bi kulli ismin laka sammayta bihi nafsak. Oh Allah, I ask you by every name which you have named yourself with. O anzaltahu fi kitabik, and by every name which you have revealed in your book. O allamtahu ahadan min khalqik, or every name which you have taught to any person amongst your creation. أو استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك. Or I ask you by every name which you have kept hidden in ilm al-ghayb with you. So the fact that the Prophet ﷺ used to say, I ask you by every name, even those names which are hidden and only you know, shows us we cannot limit the names of Allah to only 99 names. So of course a person might say, the well-known hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, inna lillahi tis'un wa tis'ina isman mi'a illa wahida man ahsaha dakhala al-jannah. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, and the hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim, verily Allah subhanahu has 99 names, 100 minus 1. Whoever ahsaha will enter into Jannah. This hadith clearly shows us that Allah subhanahu has 99 names. First of all, when it comes to any ruling of the Sharia, we cannot take one ayah or one hadith exclusive to other ayat and other hadith. So we always understand the proofs or the nusus of the Sharia hand in hand, in context with all of the other evidences, ayat and hadith. Secondly, even this hadith in of itself, it does not show that Allah subhanahu only has 99 names. And Allah subhanahu in this hadith, Messenger sallallahu, he affirmed that whoever makes ihsa of 99 names of Allah from the many which he has, he will enter into Jannah. Not that Allah subhanahu only has 99 names. For example, if I said to you, I have 100 pounds, if you find a poor person, go give this 100 pounds to that person. When I said I have 100 pounds, does this mean I only have 100 pounds? No. I'm saying if you take this 100 pounds which I want to give to the poor person, then go give it to a poor person. Not that I'm restricting my wealth to only these 100 pounds. And if the meaning was that Allah subhanahu only has 99 names, then the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam would have said, Inna asma Allahi tis'atun tis'een, that the names of Allah are 99. Whoever makes ihsa of them enters into Jannah. But he said that for Allah are 99 names, whoever makes ihsa of them enters into Jannah. Meaning Allah subhanahu has many names. And whoever makes ihsa of at least 99 of those many names, he will enter into Jannah. And this is why amongst the names of Allah are those which the ulama differed over. So some of the ulama, they differed over whether Al-Muhsin is the name of Allah or not. And whether Ar-Rashid is the name of Allah or not. And whether Al-Jamil is the name of Allah or not. And whether Al-Hafi is the name of Allah or not. And some of them, when they counted and remunerated the names of Allah, they went above 100. Yani 105, 110, 102, and they differed. Considering the ayat and the ahadith. So the meaning of this hadith is that Allah subhanahu has many names, and some of those names are in ilmul ghaib. Nobody knows them except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But whoever makes ihsa of 99 of them will enter into Jannah. And in the hadith of Ash-Shafa'ah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, the lengthy hadith, ثُمَّ أَسْجُدُ عِنْدَ رَبِّي, and then I will fall down into sujood in front of my Lord. وَأُثْنِي عَلَيْهِ, and then I will praise him with praises I never knew before. He will begin to praise Allah in ways that Allah will teach him that he never knew before. And this could be certain names that Allah kept as ilmul ghaib, wallahu a'lam. And then it will be said, Ya Muhammad, irfa' ra'sak, sul wa tu'ta, ishfa' tushaffa', to the end of the hadith. What is the meaning of man ahsaha dakhal al-jannah? That whoever makes ihsa of the 99 names of Allah will enter into Jannah. The ulama mention that there are 3 levels of making al-ihsa. There are 3 levels of making al-ihsa. Firstly, knowing the 99 names, just knowing them. This is the first level of making al-ihsa. Just knowing, and if a person wrote down 99 names, he went through the Qur'an and he took out 99 names of Allah, then that is the first level of al-ihsa. Because ihsa, it also means al-ud. And al-ud means to remunerate. Just to number them. The second meaning of al-ihsa is fahmul ma'ani wal hifz. Is for a person to understand the meanings of the names of Allah. And this is of course a greater, higher level. And then the third meaning of al-ihsa is to supplicate to Allah through these names. Because he said, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. For Allah the beautiful names, so call out to him and invoke him using these names. Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he said, وَالْمَرْجُوُّ مِنْ كَرَمِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى, and that which is hoped from the kindness and the generosity of Allah, أَنَّ مَنْ حَصَلَ لَهُ إِحْصَاء عَلَى إِحْدَى هَذِي الْمَرَاتِبِ, that the one who makes ihsa of the 99 names of Allah on any one of these 3 levels, مَعَ صِحَّةُ النِّيَّةِ, along with the sincere intention, and يُدْخِلُهُ اللَّهُ الْجَنَّةِ, that Allah enters him into Jannah. And this is what is hoped from the generosity of Allah, that even if I don't fulfill all 3 levels of al-ihsa, but the rahmah, the generosity of Allah is so much that if I fill maybe one of them, that Allah enters me into Jannah. Just as a side point, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he mentioned that any hadith, and those narrations which we hear where hadith are mentioning the 99 names of Allah, is that every single one of them is da'if. There is no hadith, there is no single hadith which has combined or collected all 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the ulama have gone through the Qur'an and the ahadith, and they have tried to collect 99 names. And if you go back to Al-Qawaid Al-Muthla, the complete book, and the English, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimullah, he also, under this chapter, he wrote 99 names. And I think he mentioned 81 names of Allah from the Qur'an, and then he mentioned the remainder to 99 from the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Al-Muhsin, he affirmed it, and also Al-Jamil. And also, sometimes you see on the back cover of the Qur'an 99 names of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is completely fabricated, and it's not affirmed that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has 99 names. Rather, that which is affirmed in the authentic hadith, that he has 5 names. That which is affirmed of 5 names: Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ahmad, Al-Mahi, Al-Hashir, and Al-Aqib. These 5 names are affirmed in the authentic hadith: Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ahmad, Al-Mahi, Al-Hashir, and Al-Aqib. تفضل. Then the 7th and the last principle which we are going to cover with regards to the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-ilhad. And the meaning of al-ilhad, linguistically, it is al-mail. And al-mail, it means to bend away from something, to divert away from something. This is the meaning of al-ilhad. And this is why in the grave, the grave, if you want to do it according to the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it has 2 parts. Does anybody know what they're called? The 2 parts of a grave, of any grave. Yani, when you dig a grave, a Muslim grave, how do we dig it? How do we dig the Muslim grave? A shaq. So firstly the grave goes down, and then there is a small chamber which is facing towards the Qibla. This is the complete and most perfect way of a grave. The hole which goes down, it is called a shaq. And then the side chamber is called al-lahad, from the same word al-ilhad, because it diverts away from the shaq. And the body is placed in the lahad, and then it is like some bricks can be placed behind the body, and then the rest of the hole, it is filled. So this is al-ilhad. The author said, al-ilhad fi asma'illah. That deviation, we're going to translate the word al-ilhad as deviation. Deviating with regards to the names of Allah Ta'ala is al-mail. It is turning away from that which is obligatory regarding the names and the attributes of Allah. And this al-ilhad, it can occur due to 4 reasons. Firstly, al-ghulu, exaggerating that which the name of Allah does not contain. Al-ghulu. Secondly, al-jafa. And al-jafa is underestimating that which the name of Allah it contains. And then al-ifrat, and that is falling short with regards to the names of Allah. And then at-tafrit, which is exceeding that which is contained with the names of Allah. And all of them are similar. So, what are the scenarios of al-ilhad? Firstly, for a person to negate one of the names of Allah. So if a person says, I do not believe that Al-Alim is one of the names of Allah, this is al-ilhad, and this is al-kufr. Why? Because you are directly rejecting the Qur'an. It contains takdeeb al-Qur'an. Because Allah subhanahu told you His name is Al-Alim, and you are saying, I do not believe that He is Al-Alim. So because it contains a direct and clear rejection of the Qur'an, it's as if, na'udhu billah, a person is saying that yes, Allah has told us in the Qur'an His name is Al-Alim. However, I do not believe what He is saying. Na'udhu billah. And it is untruthful what He is saying. A'udhu billah. So it is kufr. Secondly, another form of al-ilhad is for a person to affirm the name of Allah, but then he affirms that this name or attribute of Allah, it resembles something from creation. It resembles others from creation. So if a person says that I believe that Allah is as-Sami' and I accept that He has hearing, and therefore, and because He has the attribute of hearing and humans have the attributes of hearing, therefore there is a resemblance between the attribute of Allah and the attribute of creation. Na'udhu billah. And this is also a kufr without doubt. Laysa kamithli shay, because there is nothing equal and comparable to Allah. And the only resemblance between humans and between Allah, pay attention to these words and understand them correctly. The only resemblance between humans and between Allah is just that word, yani the letters. Meaning, Allah, He has a sam', the letters which make up the word that He can hear. And humans also have the attribute of hearing, just those letters. Is there any resemblance between the hearing of Allah and the hearing of creation? Absolutely not. And also, every person, and it's a very subtle point, the ulama say, كُلُّ مُعَطِّلْ مُشَبِّهِ كُلُّ مُعَطِّلْ مُشَبِّهِ, that every person who negates an attribute of Allah fearing a resemblance to creation has actually resembled Allah to creation. So the Mu'attila, like the Mu'tazila, they said, we believe Allah's name is As-Sami', but we do not affirm As-Sam', because if we affirm As-Sam', then we have likened Allah to creation, because creation also have As-Sam'. The ulama say that they only made ta'til because in their mind was the doubt of resemblance. Because had they believed that affirming the name of Allah does not necessitate resembling Allah to creation, then there would be no need to negate. So they're only negating because they are resembling in their mind. Inside their mind they're resembling, say, oh no, we can't do that, therefore we're just going to negate the whole attribute. Ahlul Sunnah, we affirm and we say, but then nothing resembles Allah. In fact, humans have hearing, and an ant has hearing, and a bat has hearing, and there is no resemblance between a human and the hearing of the human, the hearing of the ant, and the hearing of an ant. And that is creation within creation. In fact, two humans, two brothers, twins, both of them have hearing, and yet they are completely different in their hearing. So if we can affirm a common attribute between twins and two humans and the same species amongst creation, and yet we don't necessitate from this a resemblance, then similarly between creation and between the creator, of course there is a great difference. And our manhaj, that we affirm the names and the attributes of Allah in reality, but this does not necessitate any resemblance, is taken from the Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ, that there is nothing resembling or equal to Allah, and He's as-Sami' al-Basir. So notice how Allah negates any mithal, any equal to Him, any comparison to Him, and yet He affirmed that He is as-Sami' and He is al-Basir. And in the Qur'an, Allah affirms al-Basar and as-Sam' for the people. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. And in the hadith, يَنظُرُونَ, and how people are held accountable for that which they see and that which they hear. So this does not necessitate a resemblance. Also, from the types of al-ilhad is to name Allah with a name which He has not given Himself with. Like for example, the Christians, they say He's al-Ab, God the Father. He's the Father. And they call out to Him, Na'udhu billah, Ta'ala Allah amma yushrikun, O Holy Father. And they call out to Him with His name. This is also al-ilhad, and this is also al-kufr. And then finally, with regards to the word God, can we use the word God when referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can we use the word God referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? First point, God is not from the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, the most merciful is not the name of Allah. The oft forgiving is not the name of Allah. The all knowing is not the name of Allah. Al-Ghafur